Here, we are going to let Krake take the reins. And choose your adventure way.
You say, "Hey Krake, I'm tired of making decisions. Do you mind if we choose what we do tonight?" Pilots want to answer. We have to use our library verses and battle cries. You are the master now. If this is your wish, then it shall be done. The skeleton picks up his books and puts them in a sack he had been carrying over his shoulder all day long. You ask, "Hey Steel Krake, what you been reading?" Steel Krake says, "I was looking through my old books today, trying to find something interesting enough for me to read, when suddenly there were noises coming from outside. It sounded like an argument, or even worse, some sort of fight going on between two people." You ask Yaffa what's the titles of his books. The skeleton's hands go behind him as though hiding something, and out comes a small pile of torn pages with strange symbols scribbled across each page. The skeleton looks at you suspiciously before putting the papers back in their place. You ask, "Is that the Highlights magazine?" Steel Krake says, "Duh, these are more dangerous than any Highlights ever published. I must destroy these immediately." He grabs one of his daggers off the table and slices it open along its length while screaming out, "This book shall never see print again." As he finishes slicing up his dagger, he shouts, "May the Lord protect me from here henceforth." He then turns towards your face and slashes his blade into it, sending blood gushing down your cheek. His eyes glaze over, and he falls to his knees, dropping his sword to the ground next to him. A moment later, his head rolls off the floor, knocking over the lantern, which explodes, causing a small fire to start in your bedroom. You say, "Gee, I just wanted to know what you were reading." Steel Krake says, "It's none of your business. Now let me show you to your new quarters. We have much work to do tonight." You think I could be so careless. He picks you up by the neck, flips you upside down, and shoves you through the door leading south. You wake up in the library with a nasty hangover. You stumble about for a while, trying to remember where you were before realizing you're not at home, but instead, you are now locked inside Krake's house. You look around the room and realize that you are probably still on the third floor somewhere. You hear sounds coming from outside, and soon the skeleton enters dragging a large sack filled with books behind him. You say, hey, Steel Creek, can I get a first aid kit here? I'm still bleeding a bit from your answer to my question. I don't believe this, the skeleton says as he sees the blood covering your face. He drops his bag and pulls out one of his knives and slices open his sleeve, revealing an arm covered in bloody bandages. Skeleton Skull says, what happened to your eye? He takes his knife and cuts away your bandage, causing your left eyeball to roll into your hand. He quickly removes it, holding your head steady so he can see what is wrong with you. Your right eye was gone, and so were all of the other muscles in your cheek except for two little nubs sticking out just below your earlobe, which looked like they had been sewn together at some point. You say, I have a date on Friday, so thanks for the makeover. Why would you do such a thing? You could be crippled for life. Steel Creeks is looking very worried about the situation. Don't worry, Krake, I'm not that stupid, but I am pretty sore. I'll lift. You reply as you look around at the room again. It looks much more familiar now than before. You're on a second floor bedroom near a window with a beautiful view overlooking the lake. A large bookcase filled with old Steve book sits against one wall, and a small table with an open laptop computer sits in front of it. The bed has an ornate headboard, and there is a dresser next to it with several items sitting on top of it, including a mirror, makeup, perfume bottles, and a hairbrush. You use the items available to undo the damage to your face, leaving it bruised and swollen. You are wearing jeans and a t-shirt and your feet are bare. You say, thanks, but what's wrong? What happened to my eye? Skeleton Skull says, well, I guess you shouldn't have been reading those dangerous books all by yourself. What? What do you mean? Did something happen to me? Is this place cursed or some such thing? And why did you bring me here anyway? I thought you said you were going out. You say as you begin looking around the room trying to find anything that will tell you what is happening to you right now. There doesn't seem to be much in the way of useful information lying around, so you decide to check the computer for some clues about. jaw touched in the head Skill Krake appears to be. It turns out that Skill Krake is actually very smart. He has created an entire website dedicated to him and his family as skeletons called Krake and Skeleton Forum. There are pictures of him standing in front of a large crowd of people waving a book in one hand and holding up a lantern with the other while he shouts, "May the Lord protect me from here henceforth." The page has a list of links at the bottom, and one of them reads the story of our origin. This leads you to another website entitled KrakeSkelett.com, where there are lots more photos, videos, stories, and a lot of weird stuff on it. But even weirder stuff is found on Skeletrack XXX. You can't get into this one because you don't have your login credentials, but you notice that Krake's house address is listed as being located just outside this domain, which you find quite strange since you didn't know you lived anywhere near there. You're about to try access in the second link when the door flies open, revealing Skill Krake, who says, "Sorry about that. I forgot to lock the door before going out." You quickly close the window, hoping the Skill Krake hasn't noticed that the blinds were closed, however. He looks over at the computer screen and notices the Krake and Skeleton website. He takes out his diagram slices off the tip of his left index finger before running the blade down his wrist so it will bleed onto his keyboard and U.S. Wolf. Word. I'm not Krake. What the hell? What is Alphon? Is it even harming you, or is it just meant to scare me? Aw, don't be ridiculous, silly boy. The blood on my fingers is from a small cut on your cheek where I sliced it with my sword yesterday, not some magical curse. He says as he shows you a paper towel filled with blood on his hand, which you quickly grab away from him. But you said you read those books all by yourself, you say while trying to understand what is happening to you right now, but you can't make heads or tails of this whole situation, which leaves you feeling a bit uneasy about being alone in this house with this strange skeleton. Skill Krake says, yes, I did indeed, but that was only after reading them and studying their contents for several weeks. You ask, and what did you find? Krake still says, that they're full of nonsense. All of that talk of magic and demons and other such things. He points at the screen. Do you know how much money I had to spend purchasing these books just so I could prove to the world that there's nothing more dangerous than Hylics? Now everyone will think I'm insane. Well, if the books have been written by madmen, then it would seem you're one too. You say as you stand up. I hope your stay here hasn't left any lasting scars. Skeleton Skull Krake still laughs hysterically. Oh no, it's not like that at all. you ask well, then you shouldn't be too phased by me engaging with the new highlights issue from last month. For example, new. What do you mean new? Those magazines go back hundreds of years and longer, and all of them are filled with nonsense and superstitions. He screams before throwing his arms in the air and saying, "Aw, I knew you were a skeptic, but now that I've proved my point, perhaps we can begin our studies on those books of yours right away." He points to the computer screen again and says, "You will find yourself quite busy in this house over the next few days helping me cleanse these books." As soon as Krake leaves, you hear him muttering under his breath something about those books being worthless. You decide to check out what Krake and Skeleton. "You shall take me to those books. I should have no problem appraising them." Crake's skeleton scale says, "I am afraid you won't be able to see anything tonight. Krake is still working late. Perhaps tomorrow." There seems to be some kind of deal going on between them because they both laugh at you. You're pretty sure that if there was ever any time to get access to those dusty old books, it would be now while your host is asleep. But instead of trying to sneak into the library, you decide that sitting out here waiting for them to come home may actually prove to be a better idea after all, at least until morning anyway, when Krake will hopefully be back to his normal self. You walk around the house a bit and realize that all the doors are locked, so you'll need a key in order to get inside. You check under all table mats for the key. The house is quite large, but the front door isn't too far from the bookcase in the bedroom. It's a big wooden double door with two windows set above and below it, which looks like they haven't been cleaned or opened recently. There's no way you can see through the blinds covering them, though. There doesn't appear to be an intercom system installed either, since the doorbell works just fine. You try pulling on one of the handles on both sides of the door, but none of them seem to move, nor does it give you any kind of hint as to how it opens. So you decide to take your chances on walking around the side of the house looking for another entrance. You tap, tap, tap all around the house looking for some clue as to how to enter. You hear footsteps approaching the house, so you hide behind a bush nearby and peek around the corner of the house into the backyard. You spot spot Kraken standing out in the middle of a large lawn surrounded by several rows of flower beds containing various colorful flowers that are now starting to bloom despite the late summer heat. He's wearing a blue silk shirt with dark slacks and white gloves over his hands and feet, and he has a small pair of glasses hanging from a cord tied around his neck and is holding a large lantern in front of him that illuminates a large area in front of him while casting deep shadows on the other areas. As Krake walks across the yard towards the front door, you know there's something moving near the bushes where you're hiding, but when you look again it's gone, leaving only its you. Sense and analyze the remaining order. You make eye contact with the creature but before it can attack you, Steel Crick appears on the porch, opens the front door, and yells at you. Hurry up, you lazy bones. We have a lot of work to do today. You quickly duck down behind one of the plants so you don't get caught sneaking around the house, then turn to head back to your room for now since there seems like an important opportunity to learn about skeletons and their habits. You hear some clinking sounds coming from outside, as if there were several cups of tea being set on a table together, followed by a series of muffled footsteps walking away from the bedroom window, so you decide to go check things out now that everyone else is asleep. You tiptoe to the scene of the disturbance. The house is dark except for some faint moonlight shining through the open blinds in the upstairs bedroom where the bookshelf is located. There doesn't seem to be anyone in the room right now, though you did notice that Kraken left his laptop computer running, which has a light on it that's currently turned on. You can see a small pile of discarded coffee cups sitting next to the desk, along with a cup holder full of empty tea bags, but otherwise it's quite bare compared to what it was earlier when Krake and Steel Krake had been in here. It also appears all four chairs are still occupied, probably by them sleeping while they wait for morning. So you start looking around the room, hoping that there's something lying around or hidden underneath one of the beds, but everything appears normal.
Mm-hmm.
You check twice, check closer, check harder and deeper. There's nothing unusual about your room. In fact, there isn't even anything that looks suspicious, since the only thing out of place is one of your shirts hanging over the back of your bed, as if someone forgot to put it away before leaving the room. But you're pretty sure there must be another entrance into this room because you saw Craig Skelton go down the hallway after he closed the door behind him, so you decide to check the rest of the house just in case you missed it somewhere else. You hear a creak coming from downstairs, followed by a few bumps as if something heavy was being dragged across the floor. After a moment, you notice a light on upstairs where Kraken and Steel Crake's bedroom used to be now that their door has been replaced with a wooden. skirt your way to that area and claim you are magical needs, then slip past the scene unnoticed. When Krake and Krake went downstairs to get something to eat earlier, they also moved all the furniture, including all four chairs out of the living room, and turned up all the lights so you can see what's going on better without any distraction. The two skeletons are currently sitting at one end of the couch that had been facing the television last night while holding an old black book open between them. There's also another cup of tea sitting next to it, which looks like it's still half full. It doesn't look too comfortable for either skeleton though, because they're both hunched over it, as if trying to avoid getting burned or scalded.
Mm.
You ask what tea is being drunk in. Skeleton, Krake and Skeleton. This isn't just some regular hot water. It's a blend of rare herbs from far away places, he says while taking a sip from his teacup. I found a place outside the city where there were several bushes growing in a little garden behind a renowned house. He takes a deep breath and sips again before saying, they say that the plants used to grow here but disappeared years ago after a terrible drought, leaving only the bones and leaves left behind, and that a strange mixture of dried up roots and petals is what remains of those lost plants. He picks up the book and starts reading something that you can barely make out because the light is dimming. And don't have any glasses on to help you see better, and you're not wearing any shoes, so you can't hear anything clearly either. The book is filled with a lot of complicated writing, drawings, diagrams, and pictures that appear to be taken from other books or documents, as well as a few notes written by hand. Skeleton Scale, Krake Scale. These are ancient writings dating back hundreds of years about creatures who roamed the earth long before we ever came into existence. They were called giants, titans, colossi, cyclops. These were their names, he says as he continues reading while pointing at different words in the book. You watch for a moment before noticing that the skeletons haven't moved in a while, even though it looks like they should. decide to utter another ancient beast name, Nephilim. Are there any Nephilims in here? You ask while staring intently at the book in front of them both. Both skeletons breathe still, holding the book open between themselves. After several moments, Krake slowly turns around and stares down, his nose beneath his mouth slightly agape in shock. Then he drops the book onto the floor and grabs your shirt collar tightly and drags you closer to him. He's trembling and seems to be struggling with something internally or externally. Steel Krake just sits quietly with his eyes wide and his jaw hangs lappily. Krake finally regains control and tries to speak but can't find the right words. Instead, he gestures with one hand towards you and points with the other hand toward the ceiling. You decide to utter another ancient beast name, Nephilim. This word comes from the Hebrew language, which means fallen ones, and was used to refer to giant offspring of men and angels, usually resulting in monsters such as half-man/half-beast hybrids known as demigods. Although this is what most people think when they hear this word today, originally the term Nephilim referred to supernatural beings or deities that had both human and animal characteristics and were believed to have descended from the union between an angel and a mortal woman. It wasn't until much later, however, after Christianity became popular and influenced the meaning of many older religious terms, that these creatures started being reclassified as demons instead. Krake Skull. Well, I'm no expert on all things mythological, but it seems that these eyes were more like giants than titans, he says, while taking a sip again. They were very large in size, sometimes larger than entire armies of normal soldiers, with great strength and intelligence, some say even wisdom. He takes another deep breath before continuing. I can't tell if they were actually good or bad, though, because there's nothing in here about their intentions towards us humans, so it's hard to draw any conclusions one way or another. Skeleton Skull, Krake Skull. Let me show you something else. See this? He asks, pointing at another page in the book, then turns back to continue reading from where he left off. You stand quietly for a moment, listening to the sound of his breathing before noticing how dark it has gotten outside. You shout, okay, happy permadaylight savings, everyone. It doesn't seem to help much since the skeletons don't react. In fact, Krake appears to be paying less attention now that he's done showing the skeleton what he found out about the Cyclops. It looks like the two of them have fallen asleep while still sitting on the couch and are currently snoring loudly. But they do wake up suddenly when Krake finally drops the book on the floor next to him and yells, "We've been sleeping all day. What is wrong with you? Get moving, already we're running late." The skeletal remains get off the lazy asses and start heading towards the front door without saying anything further, but not before picking up the old black book and slipping it under their shirts and into their pants pockets while making sure you can't see what they did with it. Great skeleton, Krake and Scout. "Come on, let's go," says Kraken as you follow along behind them towards the hallway. You trail after them through a narrow doorway leading from a living room, then a small set of stairs past a couple more bedrooms before arriving at a large foyer in the center of the house. There are two wooden double doors standing closed right here, which must lead out to a balcony or a patio on top of the building because there are windows above them that allow light to shine on them from the outside. So either way, these are probably the entrances that Creighton was referring to earlier when he said that everyone has access to this place. But before you can look around too much and maybe accidentally find something useful, Creighton stops dead in his tracks and looks over your shoulder at you with an expression of total disgust. "What have we got here?" he asks while pointing at you with one long bony finger while holding onto another door for support with the other hand. Skeletons start walking and stare at you with blank expressions as if they can't believe their eyes while you just stand there in shock trying not to let your confusion show. After a few seconds they turn back and walk off towards the front door again, but they are definitely making a lot of noise now, which makes it pretty obvious what kind of reaction they have to finding a human inside their house. You ask they are not going to get their cutlery, are they? Krake and Scout. You really should keep up with current events. "We don't like humans here," says Skeleton sarcastically. "We were told about them by our friends who live in the sewers nearby, so we've been waiting all night to see one ourselves." Likewise, smelled some odors coming from downstairs though, so maybe you did bring one here last night after all. What do we have here then? Is this a gift brought over from the surface world for us, or was he just trespassing because we didn't invite him here first? Crake's clothes and Krake Scout. "Yeah, sure, that's probably it." You say I'm a gift. Use me however you will. You'll just need to clean me up first. Krake and Scout. Aren't they usually bigger and stronger than this guy? Asks Kraken as if trying to make small talk. Skeletons get Krake and Scout. "Oh yeah, definitely more muscular and imposing," replies Kraken sarcastically. You try to figure out if they're serious or just trying to mess with you. After all, they are talking to someone who they believe is an actual human being while standing in the house in front of other people who also happen to be humans. But at this point in time, you can't afford to waste any more energy on questions like that, so instead you decide to change the subject. "Can I look around?" say I might want to air this place for the summer. What? Are you fucking kidding me? I'm not even going to let my own skeleton live here. You should stay here until the end of days, says Skeleton sarcastically. Krake Skeleton Skull Krake Skull. It's too dangerous. We'll probably have another Cyclops show up one day. The last thing our friends need is for some giant to come bursting through those doors and destroy everything. Besides, there's only 2 bedrooms here anyway. Krake Skeleton Skull Kraken Skull. So what are your plans then? Asks Kraken as if he really doesn't care. Skeleton Skull Kraken Skull. We were planning on spending a couple weeks. You interrupt and ask Duo. Honeymoon. Are you kidding me? This place would be crawling with skeletons by now if it weren't for him. Krake Skeleton Skull Kraken Skull. Hey, that sounds nice, replies Skeleton sarcastically. Our plan was to move into the sewers when winter came and get away from all these humans who keep coming to our town every year looking for money or gold. I know they say that we shouldn't hate them because their bones are the same color as ours, but how can we not be angry about their shitty human world where everything is made of flesh instead of stone and bone, and our ancient ancestors never even thought to make machines to do things like heat water or turn the wheels in our cars, so we have to walk everywhere. You interrupt and ask, so wait, you skeletons on dead humans. This is you in your life form? Krake Skeleton Skull Kraken Scale. That's what I'm saying. We're still walking around and everything just looks different on the inside than what it did on the outside before death set us free from our mortal bodies, says Steel Kraken sarcastically. Krake Skeleton Skull Krake Skull. No, seriously, man, don't take this too personal, replies Skeleton sarcastically. Skeleton Skull Kraken Skull. Oh no, I completely understand. It was only a question. No offense taken. Just tell me if you see any more of them coming here again.
Hmm?
This is my house now, so why would anyone want to come back to visit? The place isn't exactly lively right now anyway. He stand there silently for another moment, wondering if maybe they were just messing with you, but then decide that probably wasn't the case since neither of them have reacted in any way at all to your questions up until now, so it doesn't really seem like either of them are lying to you when they say these things, unless they're trying to trick you into revealing your true nature so that they can attack and kill you as soon as possible, which might be what their intention behind finding out about your presence here has been all along. So what do you think? Should you answer or not? Krake Skeleton Skull Krake Skull. I have no idea who he is, says Skeleton sarcastically. Krake Skeleton Skull Kraken Skull. He's just a guy, a human. We'll let him know, replies Scale Kraken sarcastically. Krake Skeleton Skull Krake Skull. Well, don't worry. I won't tell anyone where we live. You better leave before I change my mind. Skeleton Skull Kraken Skull. Alright, says Skeleton sarcastically while holding the door open for you again with one bony arm and pointing down the hallway towards the front entrance with the other hand. This way. every crackling, bony movement of the skeleton, which makes other skeletons laugh. They stop laughing when the skeleton with the bow tie suddenly yells at them in his fake voice for them to shut up. And then they get quiet and start walking away from me once more, this time much slower than they did earlier and with far less enthusiasm when they were heading out the front door and towards the street on their way to go home. They walk out of sight, but you can still hear them talking as if it's some kind of running commentary, or maybe they're just passing along with information that was shared between each of them back during the day to keep their memories straight, even though nobody seems to be paying any attention anymore after Krake showed everyone how he found a book about a cyclops inside a cave somewhere nearby. You mean the Odyssey, you say. You know because your mom read it to you like 30 years ago, which is probably why you remember most of the story. By now, even though she told you parts of it differently, so sometimes you don't really understand everything she said. You do not want to explain all these complicated ancient human stories to anyone ever again, especially not a bunch of dead, undead skeletons who think humans are weird and have never seen an actual living one before and probably would laugh at you if you tried telling them about any of those myths from thousands of years ago in detail and asked them if they remembered hearing anything about cyclops and argonauts or giant cannons or giants with metal arms or monsters made of stone and bones fighting against other monsters made of stone and bones or whatever else was in it, but they were talking about. Well, hey, do you got some lotus seed? He asked while pointing at some flowers growing from some soil on top of a rock next to the door frame that led out into the hallway. Krake's skeleton skull, Krake and skull. No, says Skeleton sarcastically. You walk over to the flower patch where there is more room for everyone to stand around each, but as the sun continues its slow descent down towards the horizon. You reach out your hand and grab one of the pink blossoms and then bring it up to your nose so you can smell it. The aroma is sweet and slightly fruity, but not unpleasant, and it reminds you of something pleasant, so you take another sniff so it will make you feel good when you eventually start feeling hungry again. You pluck off one of the petals and hold onto it between your teeth while trying not to think too much about all these dead bodies lying here behind you and wonder how many of them died in this very place during some long forgotten battle against other skeletons who were probably also wearing similar outfits back in ancient times. Then you eat it. It tastes like strawberry Jolly Rancher candy that was just barely warm from sitting in a refrigerator in the kitchen while someone else was eating dinner inside the house with you while looking at pictures on their phone instead of actually paying attention to what's happening right in front of them because they're doing that a lot lately. Yeah. Says Skeleton sarcastically after you finish chewing on that flower and swallow. What are we going to do? Krakenskell, Krakenskell. You tell me. I don't know shit about running an inn. Says Skeleton sarcastically while grabbing your shoulder and shaking you roughly for no reason at all. Skeleton Skell, Krakenskell. We could go somewhere else. You nod and try not to think about where exactly they would be able to find another place like this, or why Krake thinks he can run some kind of business by himself, even though there is only one human left in this town who has any idea about how to work the cash register. Maybe you'll just let him handle all of it from now on. You think as you reach out towards the door again, which opens easily this time, since nobody was trying to keep it locked earlier. There's still sunlight outside, but it's getting dimmer, and it feels like it might start raining soon, so you hurry up and get back inside before it gets dark. Crake skeleton, skull, crake and skull. No, that's crazy. We should just stay here, says Skeleton sarcastically while opening the front door once more and walking through without looking back at either of you. Crake and skull, crake and skull. Hey, wait.
Hmm.
You say you really gotta stop being fucking sarcastic if you don't want a fist in your skull. I mean, what do we know about running in any way? Says Skeleton sarcastically while grabbing hold of your hand and pulling you along with him while continuing to talk. We've never even done it before. How are we supposed to know what to do or how to make money or anything? We don't have any customers yet. I'm not even sure how to charge for things. Skeleton, skull, crake, and skull. Yeah, well, maybe our plan wasn't the best one, says Skeleton sarcastically while rolling his eyes dramatically as he continues to walk away from you. But now that there's another human here, it would probably be safer to keep everything hidden instead of letting them find out that we're all skeletons, and then they'll just. You shan't make gummy bears out of you. Don't mind if I do. That's why I said our plan, says Skeleton sarcastically while shaking you again, but this time a little less roughly. He keeps holding onto your arm like that until you notice Kraken is gone. Then you realize you must still be standing here outside of your house by yourself, which makes you feel a little sad since your mother isn't home anymore and you miss her and you wish she was back so you could hug her tight right now, even though she always hated when you tried to hug her because it hurt your bunny chest. But you're too busy being confused about what just happened to worry about your own feelings at the moment. You look around and see the sunset has started to turn red behind the mountains in the distance on the other side, a town where the sun finally goes down every day. Now is the time to introduce the M. Night Shyamalan twist. And you decide to play with the idea that it might not have been the best choice to let the skeletons run away without trying anything else first, especially after they laughed at how stupid the Cyclops book sounded. So you ask them if they've heard any stories lately from anyone who used to live in this village, or if anybody told them a story while they were living there that they might know if they'd ever tell a kid like you. The skeletons all look at each other nervously for a few seconds before one skeleton says, "There's a lot more people here than I thought," he says while looking over his shoulder and then turning back towards the door leading out into the hallway again and pointing inside with an arm bone like a human would use to point somewhere. Maybe we could go check outside. You nod and say okay as you follow her through the open doorway and start walking along the street towards the other end of town where you see some other dead bodies lying around on top of their graves. They're wearing similar clothing and most of them are holding onto the same kind of weapons, so it seems safe enough to assume these are also ancient skeletons. Maybe they once lived here too but died sometime after Kraken arrived and now they've been stuck here ever since. "Hey, you guys don't want to stay in town any longer, do you?" asks another skeleton while coming up behind you two from where she was sitting on her own grave reading from a book that has no pictures in it while drinking something that smells like honey mixed with orange juice. In a glass. She's wearing clothes that look very old-fashioned, like they might have belonged to somebody from long ago in this village that isn't quite as advanced as everybody else who lives in the modern times right now, which makes you think that maybe there's still someone left alive out there somewhere, even though nobody knows about it anymore because none of the villagers seem interested in telling anybody anything useful, like why a bunch of skeletons who aren't supposed to exist according to the rules of reality were all found dead inside you, and just as soon as those new customers started showing up and spending money every day without paying for their meals or drinks. "I heard one of them talking before," says the skeleton girl. She stops and looks at you and then starts scratching her head awkwardly and tilting her head. Upwards so she can readjust her glasses, which are probably too big for her small skull. It sounded like he said something about heading west and searching some ruins and fighting off monsters and trying not to die. "Oh yeah," you say while looking down and thinking about how many people have died already since Kraken arrived. Maybe this would be better than staying here forever where nothing ever changes unless something happens to kill you first. She nods. "Yeah, I think that's where we should go." She turns towards the other skeletons who had been following her this whole time, but they've stopped now and look back at her nervously while keeping a few feet away from each other with their bony arms crossed over their chests in a way that suggests they might actually have a spine in there. Okay, spoiler. You come across a grave and it's been you all along. You're a skeleton. You thought you had flesh, but it was actually a bunch of salami slices because skeletons are assholes with their friends. The real person buried in the coffin is wearing clothing similar to yours, except theirs are made out of paper, so it seems like they must be human rather than just being some kind of monster or undead or whatever. You also find some of your mother's personal belongings, so you grab them and then return to the inn to see if she wants anything else. Then she wakes up and hugs you for no reason at all, even though you're technically dead. But for some reason, the experience feels like magic to you, which makes sense since death is supposed to be an illusion anyway, right? Or maybe not. Maybe that would make too much sense. The next day, you wake up early after sleeping soundly and comfortably for several hours on top of one of the beds in this room where you have been. You decide to go into medicine. Your mother approves. The writer of the show just wanted to be done because he was going to get a pay cut and wanted to move on to another project. Then again, aren't we all? So you pack everything that belonged to your mother that wasn't already in her backpack, including the box containing those old photographs of herself and the clothes she wore when she died, and a bunch of other stuff. Then you head down towards the village again as your mother tells you a story about how she used to work here back before she met your father, who was from somewhere far away called Canada, and she didn't know anything about him until she decided she had to marry somebody, and she found out later that it actually worked out quite well for everybody involved, but then she ended up being dead for most of his life instead, which is kind of sad because she misses him so much now, even though she can still hear his voice sometimes, which is really cool since you've only heard yours once ever since you were born. You decide to go into medicine. Your mother approves. The writer of the show just wanted to be done because he was going to get a pay cut and wanted to move on to another project. Then again, aren't we all? So you pack everything that belonged to your mother that wasn't already in her backpack, including the box containing those old photographs of herself and the clothes she wore when she died, and a bunch of other stuff. Then you head down towards the village again as your mother tells you a story about how she used to work here back before she met your father, who was from somewhere far away called Canada, and she didn't know anything about him until she decided she had to marry somebody, and she found out later that it actually worked out quite well for everybody involved, but then she ended up being dead for most of his life instead, which is kind of sad because she misses him so much now, even though she can still hear his voice sometimes, which is really cool since you've only heard yours on. See, ever since you were born. You shout your dad was a necrophile. Sick. Jesus. She says nothing else while you are busy walking around and exploring this new town with her where nobody knows who you're supposed to be or what you do or if there's any reason why you should exist at all except you seem to like it here and maybe someday you'll start to build a family or something. Your mother has never said this loud, however. Where you say as you keep looking around and try not to think about your own future too much as you wander the streets together through the small village surrounded by tall mountains in the distance where the sun sets every evening after the last customers leave the inn and the lights go on in sight. It's been over 24 hours since Krake arrived, you guess. This has been the pilot episode of Half-Assed Fables. Check in next week. We might or mightn't you'll be here with us. Also, I'm sorry about that whole necrophilia cool thing line from earlier. That was just bad writing. I was drunk, and my friends dared me to write whatever came to mind at the moment without thinking about it first. Just pretend that didn't happen, okay? You can ignore those lines if you want, but it makes no difference to what happens later. We are all doomed anyway, so nothing really matters. Maybe it would be best to not think about it at all. Not like it will make things better. You follow Skeleton Girl along with your mother down the road towards the tent as she leads the way and talks about all the people who used to live there before they died. Validity sounds a lot like the zombies are the people who died. The bones don't look much different than mine did back when I had flesh on my bones. Just blackened skulls attached to long-leg bones and some small pieces of armor made of shiny metal. Their clothes aren't nearly as fancy as yours either, which seems kind of weird because nobody ever mentioned anything about the lack of money here in this village, even though everybody was always wearing these new-looking items of clothing every day except for today when you were wandering around outside of town by yourself on an adventure while following skeletons into town just in case one of them knew something useful that you didn't know yet that you could learn from listening to their stories or whatever. You have no idea what you're doing right now, but you also didn't expect it to end up being your first few moments after arriving, so participant observation it is. It's kind of scary being out here all alone, says her mom, looking around nervously again as she glances over her shoulder towards the other direction and then looks down at herself and sees that she isn't wearing any shoes anymore. She quickly turns away and starts walking faster so she can catch up with you. I mean, it really feels like we are all dead already. You nod. Yeah, I'm starting to get the same feeling too. You take the backpack off and set it down onto a nearby rock and start rummaging through its contents. Then you come across something that makes you pause and frown. A book with no pictures on the cover. Mom, this reminds me of one of my books back home. Mom. Oh, that's an issue. Of possible. I whited out the newly parts and left the articles. Should have whited this out too, sorry. Don't read this stuff if you don't want to find a way to die from shock. She frowns for a moment, but doesn't say anything else about it, while we flip through the pages until we see one picture of what looks like a bunch of old men standing together in front of a huge wall made out of blocks or maybe even bricks, which is weird because why would anybody need such a large structure just to keep people outside from coming inside? The caption beneath it reads, "The nuns will be used to have it." You look up at skeleton girl who has stopped in her tracks right next to your mother now and seems like she is looking at something on the ground beside her feet where there isn't much more than dirt and grass though.
So good night. Wrap this up. I'm done. Done, 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 done. Good night, everyone. More boats. Ding, 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 ding.